NCAA recruiting season is in full swing. Stephen Nedoroscik is taking the world by storm on Dancing with the Stars, and the FIG made some changes at their Congress this past week. For those new here, I'm Kensley, the host of Neutral Deductions, a podcast all about men's gymnastics. This is episode 49, where I catch you up on everything that you missed in men's gymnastics.
This is the Neutral Deductions podcast, men's gymnastic news, coverage, and analysis.
So we are in full swing in the recruiting season, and this is for the 2025 to 2026 NCAA season. And I've had a lot of people ask, like, what is going on with Stanford? No one has committed there. What's going on? And so Stanford does things a little bit differently, and I don't think that that should be a surprise to anyone. So while other schools like Michigan and Oklahoma have multiple recruiting weekends, Stanford only has one. And so their recruiting weekend took place this past weekend, October 25 through 26. And the big name that we are watching for Stanford is Didier Ramos, and he was definitely present at Stanford's recruiting this past weekend. He is currently on the junior national team. Most of the other big names have actually already committed to other schools, which is really interesting. They didn't wait for Stanford's recruiting weekend, and it's a little unclear why. I don't know if some of them couldn't get into Stanford or weren't interested in Stanford or had other dreams and ambitions for competing at other schools, but basically all the big names have already committed. So there's really this like one name that we're waiting on. Now, OU scored big time. They got 3 of the top 5 recruits this year. Top 5, my opinion, who are the top 5 recruits. They got Nathan Roman, Gage Kyle, and Sasha Bogonosiuk. So Sasha was on the Pan American team that won gold. Nathan Roman was one of the all-around champions at the development program at Nationals this past year. And then Gage Kyle, he also was a floor champion at the development program nationals, and he is super famous for having his triple back as a junior. It's really impressive. It's really, really exciting to see. And of course, Oklahoma had, a previous gymnast in Gage that he did multiple like triple backs and fun things like that. So it's kind of interesting to see that parallel there. Now, Michigan has also garnered a couple of stars with Adam Lacombe and Charlie Larson. So Adam was a member of the Junior Pan Am's game team, and then Charlie Larson is actually a really, really interesting athlete. So if you haven't heard his name, you definitely should keep him on your radar. So Charlie was a member of the trampoline and tumbling team for the U.S. He actually made it to the 2021 World Championships, and then he decided to compete in artistic and was on the Minnesota club team. And of course, the Minnesota club team has had issues ever since Minnesota cut the NCAA team, and then the university got rid of their gym that the club team was using that used to be the former varsity gym. And so Charlie ended up getting a scholarship with Michigan, and he's going to finish out his collegiate career there. And I'm really, really interested to see what he can do. His tumbling is spectacular, some of the best in the world. And I really think that you should follow his gymnastics if you aren't already. The other team I am really, really impressed with this recruiting season is Nebraska. So they have 6 recruits, which is huge. And they also have some big names. So Sam Rakita is probably their biggest recruit. He is the Canadian junior all-around champion. He's very, very good. Nebraska has also stacked their field with pommel horse guys. So they have Wyatt Reynolds, who was the Xfinity US champion on pommel horse. And then they have Ty Rodriguez and Ethan Cox, both of whom are pommel horse bronze medalists in their age group at the developmental championships. So really, really good stuff from the Cornhuskers. And if you're interested in knowing who has recruited where, I know I've had a lot of parents reach out and say, thank you so much for making this list, because, they know these athletes and they've seen these athletes grow up, and they want to know what their success trajectory is like. So if you want to see that full list, I have the recruits who have made their announcement public at neutraldeductions.com. I have it pinned over on the right-hand side. So feel free to check that. Now, recruits do still have time to actually change where they're going. They don't actually sign their contracts till mid-November, but it is pretty rare that they do change where they're going. Typically, it's something like a student didn't get into the university that they wanted to, and a scholarship opens up maybe at a higher level university. And so you'll see someone change that from a lower rank program to a higher rank program, or sometimes there are family issues. Maybe a family member gets sick and they want to be closer to home. So there are reasons that people do change, but for the most part, this list should stay pretty steady. Now, speaking of NCAA scholarships, this is really, really interesting news. So, according to NBC4 News, Ohio State's men's gymnastics program is going to be losing their athletic scholarships. There haven't been a lot more reports since this NBC4 News article came out. So, I can't really speak to when this is happening, if it for sure is happening. I would lean in that direction that it probably is happening because Ohio State has only been able to garner one recruit. And when you start seeing low recruits at some of those like programs that have had historical success, you start to think something is maybe going on. Now, Ohio State is not the only team kind of in that top bracket that is having issues recruiting. And I'm curious to see if maybe some of the other teams also have stopped offering scholarships. Now, nothing's official at this time, but I do think that that is something to keep your eye on. That if you see some teams with less recruits, maybe there is something going on behind the scenes administratively with their scholarships, and it's just something that we should be aware of. Now, Stephen Nedoroscik, who was an NCAA athlete and a star at Penn State, and of course, people fell in love with him at the Olympic Games. He is making waves on Dancing with the Stars. As of Monday, October 28th, he is still one of 13 teams on the show, but 2 teams are expected to be eliminated this week. You can vote for Stephen by texting the word Stephen to 21523, and you can vote up to 10 times, and text messaging rates may apply. So set yourself a reminder if you have any interest in voting for Stephen. The other thing to watch for this week is the Halloween costumes. His girlfriend Tess has started posting several of these costumes that have showed up of like dogs and children showing up as Stephen Nedoroscik, and it's really, really adorable. So if you or your child is going as Stephen or one of the other athletes, I would love if you would send me those pictures and I can post some of them in the next podcast episode. I think it's really adorable and a great way to showcase and continually promote men's gymnastics. Hey everyone, I recently checked the stats for our YouTube channel, Neutral Deductions, and I saw that 44% of you who listen regularly are not subscribed. Now, this channel has actually finally got to the point where we're getting paid by YouTube, which I'm so excited and proud about. It's not a lot, but it is something. So it really does matter if you're subscribed and if you've hit the like button and if you share the content with other people. So if you have been wanting to help but haven't had the financial means to donate, if you will just take a moment and click subscribe, that would really, really help us out. And it's a free way for you to support the channel and support men's gymnastics. So, in sad news, Donnell Whittenburg's coach, Anthony Ingrelli, suffered from a seizure last week, and their gym, Salto Gymnastics, has opened a GoFundMe if you would like to support him financially during this time. The last update from the GoFundMe said on October 15th, Coach Anthony Ingrelli started having seizures, which required immediate medical attention. After extensive tests, images, and procedures, he was diagnosed as having a ruptured atriovenous malformation and AVM in the right frontal lobe of his brain. A craniotomy surgery was needed on October 24th to reset the vessels and prevent future bleeding. During imaging, it was also discovered that Anthony had a second AVM in the cerebellum, which is currently stable. He will need surgery in the future to avoid a rupture, bleed, or damage to the brain once he has recovered from his first surgery. Anthony will be out of work for an unknown amount of time to allow for successful healing. We are hoping to raise money to ease the cost of medical bills from the first surgery and for the upcoming second surgery. We are so thankful that his first surgery was a success, and we look forward to having him back in the gym once he recovers. We certainly wish him the best in recovery, and we'll link his GoFundMe in our show notes. So if you would like to donate, please make sure and do so. In final news, the FIG Congress happened this past weekend in Doha. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, this is where the committee members and presidents are voted upon. It's also where they vote in new countries into member status and things of that nature. So Morinari Watanabe of Japan was reelected as president, and he received 65% of the votes against his challenger, Farid Gayubov of Azerbaijan. USAG President Lili Lung was reelected to the executive committee. And for the men's technical committee, there have actually been several shifts. So Andy Toombs of Great Britain is now the president of the men's technical committee. Butch Zunich of the US was reelected to the MTC. And then Steve Butcher, who is a US citizen and was formerly representing the US, but is now representing Trinidad and Tobago, is back on the MTC after a hiatus. So that is all the major news in men's gymnastics for this time. If you would, please rate and review us on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcast. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I think we're only 20 subscribers away from 1,500. That would really mean a lot. It also helps other people find Neutral Deductions and learn more about men's gymnastics. A major thank you to Jeffrey, who has contributed regularly to this podcast. It really does make a difference and makes all of this coverage possible. Even $10 helps us out, and really it just means so much. And I see each and every person who donates, and I thank you from the absolute bottom of my heart. The PayPal link is in every show note and at the bottom of every article on neutraldeductions.com, and you can donate via PayPal or Stripe. If you have any questions or comments, you can email me at neutraldeductions@gmail.com. And that's all for this week, and we will see you next time.